Today on this episode of The Brain Surgeon's Take, we will be discussing female surgeons, breaking stereotypes, with board-certified neurosurgeon and social media influencer, Dr. Betsy Grunch. Learn about the evolving landscape of medicine, with world-class female surgeons changing the game and debunking historical gender stereotypes. Much more on this podcast episode. Welcome back, everyone. Here's my take on Betsy Grunch. She is a phenomenal neurosurgeon who has become a role model for aspiring women in medicine. Betsy is remarkably well trained, having completed her residency at Duke, but equally as impressive as her clinical acumen is her ability to inspire those around her. Betsy understands the power of social media, and as an influencer on TikTok, she has leveraged this power to motivate an army of future physicians to achieve excellence. This interview demonstrates the old school stereotype that women can't or shouldn't become surgeons is absolutely ludicrous. I loved listening to Betsy detail her journey to becoming a board certified and nationally recognized neurosurgeon in a male dominated field. As director of one of the largest training programs in the country, I can certainly attest that women make phenomenal surgeons. More work needs to be done, however, to continue erasing prejudices and stereotypes. We need more talented women to become world-class surgeons like Dr. Grunch. She is certainly an exceptional role model. Listen up as we discuss female surgeons breaking stereotypes. Check it out. Hey Betsy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Listen, thanks for joining us. I know you're in Vegas at the spine section now, but thanks for making time out of your busy day. I appreciate it.
No problem. Happy to talk to you.
So we wanted to get into female surgeons and breaking stereotypes, and you're obviously one of those women that have battled those stereotypes, broken them, and are still battling. And I wanted to get into, I guess, starting off, how and why did you first get interested in neurosurgery?
So I have a story like probably many that go into healthcare. It's kind of like a personal thing that happened when I was little. So my mom was a police officer, and I was always just really admirable of her and her line of work. And she was when I was 13, I was about 2 weeks into starting high school, and she was injured in the line of duty. There was a accident that her patrol vehicle was shot at. She worked in a really kind of hard part of town on the night shift. There's a lot of gang activity. It was like in the 90s, and anyway, they shot at her car. She ran off the road and hit a tree and suffered a C4 burst fracture, a teardrop fracture, and had a spinal cord injury. And it was obviously a long recovery for her. She went to our hospital. She had surgery and then up going to the Shepherd Center for rehab. And it was, long recovery for her and getting her back home and completely changed our lives. She had a trach and all that stuff. And so just kind of seeing what, happens to someone with a spinal cord injury, I didn't really understand. I was young, naive, and I was like, "No, we're gonna fix this. This can't be reality. This can't be like what it is." So I wanted to learn more about spine and spinal cord injury and treat patients like her. So here we are.
This episode of The Brain Surgeon's Take is brought to you by Vitamin Water. Vitamin water is the ideal way to hydrate, replete your electrolytes, and maintain wellness. I drink vitamin water routinely during the day in order to keep up my energy and focus. Check out vitaminwater.com for more information and use the promo code BrainSurgeonsTake for 20% off your first order. And I guess a common question that we ask all the applicants that want to go into neurosurgery, if you couldn't do neurosurgery for whatever reason, what profession would you have pursued?
I don't know. I never had that as a plan B. My plan was always to do neurosurgery, and that was it. So I don't have anything else I would want to
Yeah, mine was always to be an astronaut, which is true, but that's
do.
I guess we all have lofty goals. And then getting into the stereotypes, as a woman entering a clearly male dominated field, what type of sexism or stereotypes or prejudice did you experience as you went through medical school, training at Duke?
Yeah. I mean, I think any woman that goes into a male-dominated field, um, I don't know, every time I would, growing up, I would, tell, "Hey, I'm gonna be a neurosurgeon." They're like, "No, you really don't wanna do that." That just kinda negativity never it was never like, "Oh, that's great, that's awesome." It was always like, "No, you shouldn't really do that. That's not you're not gonna be able to have a family. You're not gonna be able to see, your family at all. You're gonna be working all the time." That's, normal, type of reaction to, I feel like, any woman that I've run into that's gone into neurosurgery. And then there's, like, the physical, aspect, like, "Oh, I don't know if you'll be able to do that. That's hard work," blah, blah, blah. But, um, it was easy for me because my mom was a police officer, so she was in a male-dominated field. She always heard that stuff. I would always talk to her. She and I are close, and it was nice to have that sounding board for her to be like, "No, don't ignore them. Like you're gonna do it." So yeah, I mean, those are just small examples of everything along the way, but um, you just don't listen to the outside noise and put your head down and go. So.
Which really brings me to my next question. Like, how hard was it to ignore the noise and just pursue your dreams?
Um, I mean, I'd like to say that it's easy. You just forget it and move on, but it's not. I mean, whenever you have so many people that tell you that you shouldn't do something, then sometimes you just let it get in your mind and think, like, am I really meant to do this? Can I really do this? Am I smart enough to do this? So um, it was, it's just, it lets you, it kind of eats you up sometimes, and that kind of, you know, negativity, if you let it get to you for too much, it can really be distracting. But there are good days and bad days, and as long as the good days are more than bad days, it's usually fine.
That's a great way to look at it. I think I know the answer to this question already, but who is your role model?
I mean, my mom, of course, she's just a very empowering, positive person despite all of her hardships that she's having. She's been quadriplegic for over 25 years, and it's just, I don't, there she's had she's had bad times with it, but for the most part, I mean, she just gets to the trudges of everyday life, and it's admirable. And she's always been there for me, and a positive role model for even my kids. So it's good.
That's wonderful to hear. Uh, why do you think such stereotypes exist regarding women surgeons?
I mean, I think it's just when you have it's stereotypes no matter what. If you're a certain race or if you're a certain gender, if you look a certain way, and it's and for women surgeons, it's you're going through such a rigorous training in a very critical part of your life if you choose to have a family. And so, I think that you're looked upon differently. You're seen as weak. You seemed as, maybe you can't do it. I think that is one reason. And I think that people have a stereotype that if you have to take off work for your kids, that's negative, or if you have to, go on maternity leave, that's seen as a negative thing. And it's when you have almost all men in the room and they don't have to do that, it's definitely looked upon differently.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that looking at it, I would say motherhood has to be the biggest contributor, without a doubt, to these
Right.
stereotypes. Just like you said, people frown upon taking time off from work for your family, which is crazy, or going to pick up your kids, which is crazy. And I think that that has generated incredible stereotypes against women. And I would say, on the other side, we have made significant strides in combating disparities. But how often do you feel like, even though we've made these strides, women like yourself, how often do you face harassment, false assumptions about your abilities? Is that on a day to day basis still for you?
Not anymore. I mean, I think that as time goes on and as you kind of establish yourself with the people you work with and your environment, those things go away. But to get in the door, to be in a new place, to start something new, you kind of, I feel like you have to give more than a man would, just to kind of prove your worth, if you will. You have to be even better. I felt like in residency, I had to work even harder just to be felt the same way or looked at the same way. And it's not just motherhood. It's the physical thing. It's like, if a woman becomes irritated or frustrated, they're seen as the bitch, instead of, if a man, uh, has that same type of interaction, it's not treated the same. And then, we're, as a stereotype, we're seen as more emotional, or spend too much time on whatever. And that's those are just things that you have to kind of I feel like, put extra work in to delete that from your from your environment. So
Yeah, I definitely see that as a program director, with our women residents. It's almost like their people around them expect them to do even more just to get to the same level. And we're working to change that, obviously, but it takes time. Let's
mhm.
let's bust some of these stereotypes that I think people commonly say. And you brought it up early on. Women surgeons can't have families. Is it feasible, and how is it feasible to become a mother during training or attending?
Yeah, it is absolutely feasible. It's, a personal decision. It's such a critical part of your life training in medical school, residency, even at early attending life. They're all huge transitions in your career that require so much of your time and effort and focus. And that is the same time that a family would take time, focus, and effort, and some of your physical abilities during pregnancy and delivery. And so when that time is right for you is always a hard decision. For me, myself, I didn't meet my husband until well into residency. So I didn't have those decisions to be made until like late residency or early attendinghood. But, I didn't have my first child until I was 34, second kid at 38. And so that is a long time for a woman. And I'm lucky that I, was able to get pregnant, because if you wait that long, a lot of times, you may suffer infertility, which I've unfortunately seen in a lot of my friends and in my colleagues that's decided to wait. So there's not really a good time. It is feasible. I think times are changing, and I think, you have to do what's right for you. And what it was funny, because I was not funny, but it was refreshing. I guess I was on a WINS meeting the other night with four other women neurosurgeons who were moms, and like all of us say, like our family, our kids are like our most important thing to us. And I think to give that up is, um, you know, for your career is not really worth it. It's, if you really want kids, you can do it. It's the best part of my life, and yeah, I wouldn't want anyone to choose one or the other when you can have both.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You brought up a topic of infertility as you get older. Do you recommend that women going into residency freeze their eggs?
I think I think it's a discussion that you should have with your OBGYN, because I think it makes sense. It's smart. If you know that you want to have that as an option, you never know what can happen as time goes on, and particularly women that may not be ready or may not have a partner, but they know that that is on their list and things that they want in their life. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it can't hurt, right? I mean,
Right.
at the end of the day, you don't want to end up, like you said, sacrificing your family for your career. Freezing the eggs, if you have the ability to do so, seems like belt and suspenders. And I would recommend that for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I already know the answer to this question, but I just want to hear you say it. But, one of the big stereotypes, can women handle the physical and emotional stress of being a surgeon? Are they tough enough?
Of course, I mean, the stereotypes are hilarious, really. I mean, s- neurosurgery, surgery in general, is a very physical job, and it's unlike any other specialty, even with neurosurgery, because there's really long cases and you have to stand all the time. I mean, routinely in our field, whether it be cranial or spine, I mean, there's cases that can go all day long. and the physical ability to do that or to do big spine cases, and it's a lot of push and pull and tug and that kind of thing. I mean, we can do it. There's better, we're often seen as the less physical, but I mean, there are ways to do the job. You just gotta find your way and how you can kind of go about doing it. And then in terms of the emotional, I think that's a no brainer. I mean, if we can have kids and raise children, we can do brain surgery.
Yeah, I would say raising a kid's way harder than brain surgery.
I agree. I agree.
How has modern surgical training evolved to combat gender stereotypes, or has it?
I think it's getting there. I think that as the older generation phases out, as we become more accommodating, more understanding of the reality of what our profession is and the people that want to go into our profession, and we change our training. I I trained, and I think we're about the same age. I mean, in this pre 80-hour work week and then post 80-hour work week, and it was interesting. Like before, I was working 120, 130 hours as an intern, and then we were supposed to be working 80 hours. But if you even remotely like complained about it, you were seen as complainer a week or whatever. And I think that's changed so much. I've even seen in our residents at our facility, my medical students that's rotated through with me, that we're definitely more woke, if you will, understanding. I mean, just because we went through this doesn't mean we need to force everybody else to go through the toxicity. And if we don't change it, no one will. So I love this generation of newer surgeons and newer attendings because I think that we're starting to understand that it's not safe to do what we do, and that we do enjoy things outside of our field, but we love our field, and how we can like kind of meet that fine balance is key, and passing that along to develop really good future surgeons. So I'm
It's
excited.
definitely a fine balance. I think you said it best, right? It doesn't have to be toxic. Doesn't have to be like the torture that you and I went through for sure. At the same point, it is neurosurgery. You're not, stocking shelves at a store. I mean, you have to put in the time, put in the effort, and nothing's going to be given to you. You have to kind of go through it. So I do agree it is a fine balance. It shouldn't be torture, but it also shouldn't be Disney World. So it's like
Absolutely.
what is that fine balance? Um,
Yeah, I
what
mean, we
change?
we do a job where people's lives are on the line. I mean, there's surgical specialties and things where it's maybe not as critical, but in our field, it's life and death, or it's life or limb, and it's like you said, it's not anything to take lightly. It's not like we can be nice about it. There are parts of our job that are hard, and we have to be hard to make the future generation understand that. So there is a very fine balance.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we try to protect our residents and we end up hurting them because you
Mhm.
protect them too much. And in a couple years, when they're in attending, there's going to be no one to protect them. And they're on their own dealing with, like you said, critically ill people having to come in the middle of the night, operate just like you do. And in residency, yeah, there's an 80-hour work week. Hey, go home. You're past your 80, 80 hours. When you're in attending, no one's sending you home. These are your patients, and you got to be able to get through it. So I think it's like you said, fine balance. Shouldn't be torture, but it does need to be hard. It is neurosurgery.
Right, and I mean, I did call a couple of weekends ago, and I was up, like, for 2 nights in a row. I mean, that would no way be okay in residency, but that's a reality of what I had to do my job because of cases that came in that had to be taken care of, and I don't know, I felt like I, was trained to be that way, and I don't want the future generation to not know how to handle those situations, because when you're extremely tired, I mean, you still have to take care of very serious issues, and you need to know how to handle that. So I don't know.
Yeah, that is very, very well said. I agree. You have to be able to handle the situations that come up in neurosurgery, and they will come up your entire career. And if you haven't seen it as a resident or you're not exposed to it, good luck. So,
Yeah, it's
what
tough.
other changes would you like to see in training in neurosurgery to help combat gender stereotypes? Are there any changes that you would like to see personally?
I mean, I don't know if there's anything that we can change about it, like from a I wish that there was a more accepted during training um, support system if you did decide you wanted to start a family and ways of doing that because I don't know how I would have even have went through pregnancy, delivery, early childhood years with my kid not sleeping through the night and then like having to deal with residency. I don't know what the answer is. I don't have an answer, but just some kind of way that we could protect our women surgeons to allow that to be an okay thing and how we can support them through that process would be a nice change. I think that would bring more women into the field where we're not seen as taken away from our male colleagues during that time.
Totally agree. We need to have some kind of buffer that allows women to get pregnant, give birth, and be a mother without crushing the rest of the residents, which is what ends up
Right.
happening. People don't understand. They're like, "Oh yeah, well, can't someone just cover?" And you're like, "There's 1 to
There's
2 to 3 residents per year. If that person's out for an extended period of time, there's just limited coverage. You can't like pull someone off the street to just fill that spot. But
right.
it is complicated, and we got to figure out a way to do it because women should not feel pressure. Oh my God, I have to cover when they're having a kid, which is way more important, to be honest with you. So,
Right. I agree.
do you think that gender stereotypes have narrowed the pipeline for female surgeons to get promoted within academic medicine?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel, I mean, I'm not in academic medicine. I left academic medicine as soon as I could. Uh, but I just think, I mean, I have a lot of my previous residents and friends that are in academic medicine, and I think that I think the answer is yes, but I think it's changing. I think, diversity and inclusion is so important in our leadership within our field because our leadership is what guides change. And if we don't have more diverse leadership, then we're not going to understand what each other are going through and how we can change it. So I think it is changing, but um, I just it's a slow process. I mean, it's not something that you can do overnight. So it's gonna be a long time before it's equal. I mean, I think, we'll probably talk about this in a little bit, but over 50% of medical student acceptance are women, but yet we're in a field where it's less than 8%. If you're talking about a field like me, spine surgery is less than 2%. It's
Crazy.
there's none. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about, in your opinion, and these are gross kind of generalizations, but do you feel there are things that, in general, female surgeons do better than male surgeons?
I hate to be stereotypical because we want to fight the stereotypes, but I mean, I would answer this question as a stereotype. And of course, there are women that are good at it, there are men that are good at it. But in general, I do think women are better communicators in relaying their ability to talk to patients and get down on their level. I mean, there's been multiple studies that support that women spend more time with their patients for better or for worse. I think that may translate into the surgical field too. That if you're a better communicator with your team, you may have better outcomes. You may be able to understand a patient's socioeconomic background, and when you're recommending surgery, like maybe this surgery may not be the answer for you because I don't know if you could handle that from a financial, from a family standpoint, from a loss of time standpoint, from a recovery standpoint, emotional standpoint. And I think that, as a physician, man or a woman, to understand that, know that from a patient and recommend something that they are going to be successful with will only make you a better surgeon and only make you have better outcomes. So man or a woman, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's my answer.
I would agree with that 100%. I think my experience as a program director, having trained many dozens of residents, and obviously, these are just generalizations. Like you said, there's women that do it well, men that do it well. But I think women are more empathetic. They're better communicators. They relate with the patients in general better, and they're better multitaskers.
I
They
would
are
say
in
yes.
general. And so I think I think those are things that I've noticed in the women's surgeon that I've been lucky to train. Um, and yeah, we certainly need more women in our field, which goes back to what you said before. You know, most people know that now the majority of medical students are women. So our, over 55% of future doctors are going to be female. But it's such a small part of that that go into surgical specialties. Number one, why do you think that is? And number two, how do we change that? Because we obviously have to change that.
I think it's a lot of the things that we talked about. I mean, I think most of it is the assumptions of demands of ourselves in this early part of our life. There's so many women that hear the noise that we talked about, that if you go into surgery, not just neurosurgery, but urology, orthopedics, whatever, that you're not going to have time to start a family, or maybe you're not physically strong enough, emotionally strong enough, et cetera. And so all that noise kind of distracts people from that. And let's be honest, like when you're a female medical student, or just when you're a medical student, period, and you're going into seeing different specialties. You're rotating through family med, psych, ER, OBGYN, neurosurgery, general surgery. You go in the room and you want to be welcomed. You want to be accepted. You want to feel like you're a part. And your experiences in that early part of your career really mold who you are, and who you're around, who your role models are. So if you go out on as a woman, you go into an OBGYN rotation and you're like, wow, there's all these women here, they look like me, they talk like me, they're cool, I like babies. I mean, this would be cool, this is a great field. And then you go into neurosurgery, OR, and everything's tense. There's a bunch of white men, you don't, maybe not talking to you as much because maybe you don't have a lot in common. And so it really is, it's not as much as an environment that's as inclusive as it could be. And I think that women that go into the field are ones that really, really want to go into neuroscience, and not, and the inclusion is sometimes there, but sometimes not. For me, it was sometimes there, sometimes not. But I found ways, I found people maybe that didn't look like me, that could really help me grow and foster my growth and learn, and were supportive. And I think, if you really like a certain field, you just got to find that person, that role model, and that person that will help you get there. And we all can be better about being welcoming to our medical students, and younger, even pre-med students that are kind of experiencing that. So
Now, you talk about role models. Obviously, your mom was your biggest role model. You, as you know, you are a huge role model to not just women surgeons, but all surgeons. And you're an influencer on social media. Are you actively trying to break stereotypes due to your influencer role? Is that something on your agenda? Like, look, ladies, women, like you can do this. Like, look at what I've done. It's possible.
yeah, I mean, this whole social media thing kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't trying to do any of that, and I was just kind of using it as an outlet during COVID, and a little hobby that I did, and it grew into this huge platform that I am so thankful for. But it gives me the ability to reach out to so many young people, man, woman, whatever, and show them our field, show them why we love doing what you and I love doing, and showing that you don't have to look like somebody that you think would be a neurosurgeon to be successful in that field. And it's really empowering to have that, and it's sometimes stressful for me to be have that on my shoulders, but I really enjoy it, and it's become like kind of almost like a second job to me. But it's so important, I think, for a future generation, because social media is what every kid has on their phones and growing up, and what we use to think who we think we want to be like, or what we want to do when we grow up. And having more of us on there, not just me, but more people on there talking about it, I think is um, gonna, really only positively impact. There's a lot of negativity and noise on social media about healthcare and different parts of our, even patients looking to get information, so it's misinformation and stuff. So I mean, that's why I do it, is to try to fight misinformation, kind of be a positive role model, be an influencer, if you will. I don't like that word, but yeah, it's been quite the ride.
Well, it's great from the outside looking to see how you can influence so many people just by doing your job, right? Like you're doing your job and
Right.
you're so down to earth and you're yourself that again, not just women, but people who are aspiring surgeons see that and they're like, "Wow, I can do that. She's a real human being. She's not a superhuman." And like, yeah, it's certainly possible to achieve the things that you have achieved. And so I definitely respect you for having that as part of your role and helping these other people reach their dreams. Along those lines, last question because I know you're super busy, but what advice would you give any of our listeners who want to become the next Dr. Grunch?
I mean, I think just all the things that we talked about, just kind of believing in yourself. It's not, I think we all want to see people that are successful and want to be there, but not understand the work that has to go in to get there. And I think that not, you can't go to bed one day and wake up and be successful. It's putting, hard work, hard money, hard hours, hard parts of your life into something that you're passionate about, and you can't do it for the success or for the money or for the hours or for the glory. It has to do it because you're passionate about it, and whatever that field is. If it's neurosurgery, that's awesome. If it's something else, that's even better. But your drive has to be what you're passionate about, and you have to put in the work to be successful. And it's easy to look at someone and kind of want to be that, but not really understand what it takes to get there. And no matter what the field is, it's you have to put in your time, and hopefully good things will come out of it. So
That's well said. Listen, Betsy, thank you so much for your time. You are, whether you like it or not, you are an inspiration for many women going into medicine, going into surgery, going into neurosurgery. I can tell you we need more women in neurosurgery for sure. As a program director, it's something that I put into my mind, and I want to make sure we get the best women out there because we need more Betsy Grunches, and you are a role model. So again, thank you for all you do.
thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. I really do. And thank you for what you do training our future generation of surgeons. So thank you for your time today.
It's the best. And listen, definitely enjoy Vegas and the Spine Conference.
Awesome. Thanks. Will do.